What's up everyone, Alex here. So this video is going to be very different from the usual videos that you get from me, particularly because this isn't scripted or anything like that. This is me literally commenting on top of the gameplay that I recorded of Elden Ring. It's an opportunity for me to show you guys who are brand new to this game what Elden Ring offers and maybe like some starter areas that you guys can check out yourselves. And the reason why I am doing this particular playthrough, which meant like I'm going to start from the very beginning and working my way towards a defined goal, is I had a conversation with my friend about how awesome Castlevania is and the fact that the last 3D Castlevania we ever had was Lords of Shadow 2, which admittedly was not that great. However, Elden Ring actually has a whip in the game, and so I was kind of curious if there's a way to use the tools within Elden Ring to kind of mimic that sort of gameplay. However, the biggest problem is that the whip is not something that is available when you start the game. And so I decided to record this video to chronicle how I got the whip in the game. And as it turns out, this is a little over 2 hours long. This is going to have a lot of dying in it. It's going to be using a type of weapon that I've never used before in the game in any of my playthroughs. And so I'm literally starting from scratch and kind of relearning this game alongside you. So what you're seeing right now is I'm attempting to recreate Sonia Belmont from Castlevania Resurrections and of course the Game Boy games, and me being completely ill-suited to try to create a custom character using the tools that's given to me. That being said, it's very robust. It's pretty cool, but we're just gonna like fast forward past all this because it's literally like 10 or 15 minutes of like me just mucking around and trying to make a character. So one thing of note is that I picked the samurai here to start with, and the reason why is because the samurai meets the minimum strength requirement for the whip, and when I level up, I can start pumping more points into dexterity so I can meet the minimum for the whip. I want to say, going from memory, that the strength requirement of the whip is 8 and dexterity is 14. So we're going to skip through the opening cutscene here and just get right into the first area. Once again, I've never used katanas in my playthroughs, so it's going to be a very interesting experience using this weapon. Oh, the grafted scion. For people who are curious, you can actually defeat this if you're really good. But if not, you can always come back to it later. And as you can see, I tried my best to hold my own against this guy, but, you know, and I thought I dodged it there, but I guess according to the game, I just didn't do so great. So now we basically spawn into the actual starting area of the game. And this brings back a lot of memories. Like, I remember being like so scared of this game, like getting to this point. Like, I knew I was supposed to die, but there was still some reluctance in me. I was like thinking to myself, am I going to really enjoy this game? I know that FromSoft is known for like hard games.
Don't worry, Torrent. Fortune is on her side. We found her here after all.
So this cutscene is really crazy because I didn't understand anything that she was saying. But as I played through the game, I kind of understood who the horse is and who that girl is, and of course what the Golden Order is. And yes, that's despite not having a traditional narrative. But as you can see, there are cutscenes in the game for crucial moments. So it's almost like a way for the game to kind of compile all your knowledge that you've accumulated and kind of melded them together. So we're going to go through the tutorial section here and try to get through it real quick. And the reason why we're going through this is not because like we actually don't know what we're doing, but we're also getting some runes as we're trying to get through this section. Here, I actually decided, you know what? I know enough about the game already. Let's turn off the tutorials. Sites of Grace. Touching the Sites of Grace doesn't actually like use it. It just kind of tells you like, hey, it's there. And hopefully I do really well with this run, because it would be very embarrassing if I died. Especially with how easy the enemies are. This is very subtle, but some of you probably have noticed that I'm holding the katana with two hands. So even though I have the shield equipped, as you can see on the lower left, I'm actually two-handing the sword. And as you can see, I'm still trying to figure out the distance of some of its attacks. I'm too used to like a longer weapon. So far, so good. Jumping attacks are really good at breaking posture. And breaking posture basically means the enemy's about to attack, but you did an attack that kind of canceled or interrupted their attack. There's a ton of factors that determine it, but I typically use the weight of the weapon as a determining factor of whether or not you can break posture easily. But that's not always the case. I'm still trying to figure that out. Boss room. Let's see how well I do here. Ooh, nice roll. Critical. And dead. That wasn't too bad. When you break an enemy's posture enough, essentially they'll go into this animation and you'll hear this bass sound that hits, which identifies that they've actually been taken down, and you can actually hit them with a critical hit. Critical hits are basically like when you backstab somebody or you stab somebody in the front after you've broken their posture. Another side of grace. A lot of multiplayer items. And this next scene we're about to get into is actually really, really important, because we're coming out from the catacombs and seeing this gorgeous, lush environment in front of us. If you kind of notice when we actually went through it, the sides of the door framed our viewpoint. It's almost like it's opening a window into this world. There was also a post on Twitter that kind of identified what we're actually seeing here, because there's actually a lot to break down. Stormvale Castle is over here to the northwest of us, and even further west is actually the area that we started with, which is really cool. Right in front of us, there is a site of grace that, of course, my character is covering, but you see a lot of those like golden shimmery type things that kind of identify where a site of grace is. There's also a horseman on the right side that just keeps patrolling, which seems really difficult, and trust me, he is. And also a church in the distance that is our next objective. So let's get the site of grace. And maybe refresh our potions and whatnot. Now let's talk to this guy, see what he has to say.
Oh, yes. Tarnished, are we? Come to the lands between for the Elden Ring? Of course you have. No shame in it. Unfortunately for you, however, you are maidenless. Without guidance, without the strength of runes, and without an invitation to the Round Table Hold, you are fated, it seems, to die in obscurity.
Huh. Douche. So we're just going to try to continue to make our way to the chapel, and we're trying to grab as many items as possible because you'll never know when they're going to be used. Thankfully, there's no limitations in terms of like how much you can carry in Elden Ring, so you can just pick up as many things as you possibly can. Also, in case you're wondering, I am playing this on the PC, and ever since the latest patch, the performance has not been great. Uh-oh, I accidentally ticked off the horseman. Ooh, that would have been really bad. So we're going to use the Site of Grace that we newly discovered, so that way we can reset all of the enemies. Ooh, he was really close right there. And let's just double check to make sure he's not there. And it looks like he reset. So we're done. So let's go over to this merchant, Kale.
I can also select your lot. Then why not? I am Kale.
And get the crafting kit.
Goodbye. Nice to do business.
The crafting kit is very useful. So from here, we're going to try to get to another site of grace that is quite far. And we're going to be taking this path right in front of us, where there's a guard patrolling, it seems. Let's see if we can critical hit him or backstab him or some such. Yes. I know that there's also a guy to the left side. Let's try to sneak a little bit and get him. Awesome. And there's another guy right in front of us. And... gotcha. Okay. We're actually approaching to the site of grace that we need to go to. But we're going to wear this piece of armor because it has better damage negation. And unequip the helmet so that, you know, we can make it more Castlevania-like. I know removing the helmet isn't necessarily going to make that, but I've already spent 10 to 15 minutes to get this face, and I think it'll be cool to at least see the back of their head. Right ahead is the site of grace that we want to get to, and we not only want to activate it, but we also want to use it. This is where we get the ability to level up and get our horse.
Greetings, traveler from beyond the fog. I am Melina. I offer you an accord. I can play the role of maiden, turning runes into strength to aid you in your search for the Elden Ring. Then it's settled. Summon me by grace to turn runes into strength. Ah, another matter. I bequeath to you this ring. Use it to traverse great distances. It will summon a spectral steed named Torrent. Torrent has chosen you. Treat him with respect.
Now that we've met Melina, let's try to mess around with these people. So each of these carriages actually have a treasure chest. It looks like that. Our goal here is to actually get the map in this area, but it's crawling with guards. So we're going to try to figure out a way around them. I want to get the other treasure chest that is in another similar wagon found on the other side of the camp. That's why I'm taking the time to eliminate these guys. There it is. Let's just backstab this guy so we don't have to deal with his shields. Thank you. Time to open this chest. Keep in mind, I have no intention of using these weapons. I really want this run to be all about whips. I also almost accidentally used that item, and that's because of muscle memory. So I am currently taking the time to map all the necessary items for my pouch so I can use shortcuts to activate them and not have to scroll through a bunch of items. You can get the map from behind the thing. You don't have to be in front of it, just like I did. So now that we got that, I want to show you guys the first real dungeon of the game, or rather, one of the first two. I actually don't recommend folks try this one first, just because of the speed of the enemies that's in there, although it could be argued that this is the perfect first dungeon for that. It's going to feature enemies that are way faster. But before that, this is what you can do with a horse. Pretty neat that you could just deactivate the horse by clicking in the left stick and do a jumping attack. That's really cool. Let's restock our potions. And let's explore this cave. It might seem dark at first, and you might think like we need a torch, but there's actually a lot of light in here that I missed there. This big white wolf actually has a lot more HP than normal. Admittedly, that was a bit sloppy. There, I was checking if I had the right materials to make a fire pot, and unfortunately, I don't. As you can see, the wolves are very tenacious. They can easily jump in and out of attacks, and it can be really frustrating for newcomers. Admittedly, it's still frustrating to me. And again, I try to see if any of those items pretty much help me make fire pots, and of course, none of them are the right ones. And look, it's a boss room. Keep in mind that this is the first time I've ever used the katana. And this is also the first time that I've not relied on a shield. Oof, I did not expect that. Panic rolling. I was trying to jump up to try to break his posture and poise, but unfortunately, as you can see, even someone as experienced as me can still die early on. So let's try that again. I'm going to try to be smart and... whoops. And use the bow, but I don't really know how to use the bow properly if it's equipped on the left hand. And so here I am scrambling to control the situation and really failing at it. Oof. I don't want to fall in there. Keep in mind, I have 1,000 runes waiting for me in the boss room. Uh-oh. Well, there goes 1,000 runes. The thing that's funny about that is that the boss is probably going to give at least 1,000 runes. So I shouldn't even worry about that. But here we are, trying again to get to the boss room. With only, let's see, 55 runes to our name. This time I get smart. I said to myself, you're going to map your weapons and armor the way that you want to, so your muscle memory won't mess you up. And this time, we're going to fight everybody on our terms. Ooh, got lucky there. That's the tougher one down. And one more left. Okay. Going good so far. Just checking to see if I've gotten everything. And the last wolf before the boss room. Keep in mind that aside from the 55 runes that I got, we're already up to 372. Okay, round 2. Oof. My sword is not as long as I thought. And that block used a lot of my stamina. I won't be fooled this time. This is when I learned of that combo. I didn't actually know that that existed. That jump attack actually broke his posture. This is a combo. Oof. There's that combo again. Jump, roll forward. There are opportunities where you can drink your potions pretty fast. There's the combo again. And we got him. And I don't have any more health potions, but thankfully it's the end of the dungeon. I kind of look around to see if there are any treasure chests that I need to open, but exit the dungeon using this teleporter. But we're not going to do that quite yet. We're actually going to go to the Site of Grace and use the runes to level up. Even though we've actually met the minimum requirement for whip, I still want to improve the amount of dexterity that I have, because it actually increases the amount of damage that I output using my weapon. And I also had to use one of the golden runes to get more runes, so I can level up one more time. This is actually a good practice. If you have enough golden runes to kind of push you to the next level, it's a great way to level up and not be sad if you lose a lot of runes in the process. So from the cave, we're going to go to the next dungeon, which I feel would be the best first dungeon you can go to. And from here, you'll notice that there's actually a statue on top of that pile of rocks. So we're going to go right up there and see what that's all about. Keep in mind that we're passing the chapel with Kale on the left. We're going to activate the statue. Creepy, isn't it? It's actually pointing to the direction of where we need to go. So all we really need to do is follow it. I know that the direction is vague, but the actual elevation of where it's pointing at does matter. And here it is. The first dungeon we encountered was a cave. This is a catacomb. The mini dungeons in Elden Ring have different flavors. There's 3 different flavors, really. And this flavor gets elaborated upon the further you get into the game. Be wary of left. Okay. Oof. He hit me. If you do choose this place to be your first dungeon, be wary of these guys, because that status effect that shows up in the middle of the screen is dangerous. You'll see what that does very shortly. You'll find these doors in catacombs, and they're usually where you'll find the bosses. So your goal in these catacombs is to find a lever that opens that door. I usually have a bad habit of using the bow when I'm trying to follow up a shot of my arrow with a melee attack. It's a habit that I haven't shaken to this day. If you notice, you can actually use an arrow shot to take down these fiery pillars. It's certainly a lot safer than hitting it with your sword. But if you don't have a bow, you can pretty much run down this corridor and hang a right and wait for safety. So here I was thinking to myself, maybe it would be a good idea to have them be killed by this pillar. I want to show it to you guys. Unfortunately, the fire only comes out in one direction. But I decided to pick on this guy as well to kind of increase the odds of me dying, apparently. That was not smart. I'd completely ignored the fact that they had a range ability and tried to make them do things that they didn't want to do. That was totally my fault. So let's try it again. Be wary of left. Ah, didn't get hit. Great. Ooh, blood loss. That's what happens when that meter fills up. You notice that life bar dropped dramatically. Very dangerous. So while the enemies do reset after a death or whenever you activate a Site of Grace, the traps themselves kind of stay the same way. So this first fire pillar is still down. Wow, surprise. The first time we went through, this guy didn't attack us. So that was surprising. Well, since I tried that experiment, it's back up again. This time, I've learned my lesson. I'm just going to pick on these guys one at a time and not try this again. But I'm being cocky and actually trying to attack more of them. And that's not great. And now I'm cornered. And I die of blood loss. Maybe this shouldn't be the first dungeon you should check out. Alas, I'm going to push on. Let's try it again. Be wary of left. Oof. Almost blood loss again. That's not great. Already using my first potion. Oof. Still closed. The reason why we're running through here is because there's actually snipers up above, and the last time we ran through here, one of them decided to follow us into this room. And here I am, and successfully doing a jumping attack to reach the sky, and finally doing so. The katana is a lot shorter than the sword that I'm using right now in my PlayStation playthrough, and certainly a lot shorter than the great axe that I'm using in my other PC playthrough. So this is quite the change that I'm having to get used to in this playthrough. Okay, this time I'm gonna pick a fight one at a time. The reason why I'm punching there is because I am not used to the fact that this is a one-handed weapon. And as you can see here, I'm using it as a two-handed weapon now. So far, so good. Blocking with any weapon is less effective than blocking with a shield, but that's one of the challenges that I want to take on for this playthrough. Okay, I think there's one left. Guy on the right. If you heard that loud booming sound, that means that the enemy is susceptible to a critical strike. Ooh. As you can see here. But let's take care of this guy too. All right. These grave gloveworts are going to be useful much later. We're not going to be able to cover that, unfortunately, in this video. Be wary of right. Whoa. He popped up way sooner than I thought there. And unfortunately, I don't want to be in that other room. Again, can't tell the distance. Nice. Wandering Noble Ashes. We're going to be talking about ashes in this video. But for now, let's just note that we got it. Let's go down. Ah. A lever. But there's an enemy right here. Whoops. Got too greedy. Another grave glovewort. And here's the lever, which should open that big heavy door. So we could just run up the stairs, but I foolishly tried to attack these guys, and I didn't know there were two of them, because there was one right behind that pillar that just killed me. We better get that, because that's 1,558 runes that we'd be losing this time. Okay, well, let's speedrun this sucker. The door is open, as you can see. So we're just going to grab this and run backwards. But we're not going to go to the boss just yet. This guy wants a piece. So normally we'd go into the boss room right now, but I think it's prudent to think that we have way too many runes to lose at this point, and might as well use them so that we can have an advantage in the next battle, right? So that's exactly what we're doing here. Oof, that's going to leave us with 778, and that's not enough to level up again. I'm going to check to see if we have enough golden runes, and unfortunately we do not. Golden rune 1 only gives you 200, and that's still about 100 or so short from being able to level up. So let's fight this guy and try our luck. Boss room, as you can see. This, to me, was my first real boss of the game. And the reason why I recommend this boss over the other boss that we fought in the Groveside Cave is because he has very obvious tells. He's very robotic, so it's very easy to kind of tell what he's about to do because he also doesn't have a lot of attacks. Although I didn't know he could do that. Pretty impressive dodging skills, right? When you see his face shake like that, that means he's going to breathe fire out of his mouth. Oof. Too bad, buddy. It moves so creepy. Let's try again. Oh, fire in the mouth. Because this guy is some sort of statue, if you will, at least that's what I think, it's going to be very difficult to break his posture and poise. So, good dodging is important. I'll give you guys a good tip too. If for some reason you pressed the dodge button too early, you can hold the button down for a few seconds, or maybe a second, and then when you release it, that's when your character will dodge. I forgot about that when I was doing this fight. But I used it right there. And there. Almost dead, but he's breathing fire. These jumping patterns are probably his biggest weakness. But as you can see, there's some pretty good tells to his attacks. It's a lot slower than the other guy. One more. And dead. Another ash. I promise, we're getting to the part where we'll get to use those and figure out what that's all about. And as always, since we got more runes, we're going to be using them. I think if we use the golden rune, we'll be able to level up again. Haha. Vigor or dexterity? Survivability or damage? Survivability. I went through that really quickly, but my base stats for vigor, which is my HP, actually increased by 20 there. So that's pretty significant. Okay. At this point, I'm thinking, okay, maybe it's time to show you what these ashes are all about. So I'm going to be riding towards the church at this point because we're supposed to meet a very important character in the game that'll give us that ability. So I thought to myself, okay, well, I'll use the Site of Grace, turn it into evening, and maybe we'll see them. They'll show up over there, beyond that pillar. Not there. Maybe there's a trigger that I need to do in order for them to show up. It's at this point that I kind of decided, you know what? I'm going to retread my path back to that encampment with all the soldiers. Get a free hit on this guy. And maybe, if I ventured further down the path towards Stormvale Castle, I'll be able to activate that cutscene or that encounter. So from that Site of Grace up there, I'm going to be heading towards the left, and I will not engage in any enemies because that's going to be super dangerous. There's a troll up on that rock that's going to come down, as well as 6 soldiers over here that you really don't want to get stuck in the middle of. So I ride past them. And there's an ambush over here as well. You want to ride past them as well. Towards the right side is a golden tree, which has a golden seed. That'll allow you to carry an additional flask. And I'm taking care to ride this way so that I can avoid a wolf ambush and get to the Site of Grace. We're also going to be grabbing that item, which is a stone sword key. And we're going to be talking with that lady that's in the shack.
Everyone's been grafted. Everyone who came with me. They crossed the sea for me. They fought for me. Only to have their arms taken. Their legs taken. Even their heads taken. Taken and stuck to the spider. Did you know? If you're grafted by the spider, you become a chrysalid. It's quite a lark when you think about it. You're all on your own, are you? And heading to Stormvale Castle? Enticed by the one in the white mask, I suppose. Oh, you've come to be one with the spider? Well, that makes us 2 peas in a pod. But I don't have your courage.
If you haven't noticed yet, it's highly recommended to speak to these characters multiple times because you just don't know if they're going to give you an item or not.
I'm nothing but a craven. Oh, I know. Can you take this little one along with you?
And in the case of this woman right here, she does give you something at the end.
And the spirits look rather fondly upon you. It'll be glad of your company, I think, the little one.
Just make sure you exhaust every single bit of dialogue when you talk to somebody. You just never know what you'll get. Smithing stones are really important to upgrade your weapons, and I'm not going to use any of these for the time being because I really want to get the whip. So I'm thinking that by talking to this lady and getting the jellyfish ash, that the person that we're looking for will show up. And here she is.
Tarnished. May I have a word? A pleasure to meet thee, Tarnished. I am the witch Rena. I'd heard tell of a Tarnished hurtling about atop a spectral steed, and upon looking into the matter, the talk, I surmise, is of thee. Thou art possessed of the power, no? to call forth a spectral steed named Torrent. As I had hoped, I was entrusted this for thee by Torrent's former master. 'Tis a bell for calling forth spirits. Summon them with it. From ash and return to the Erd Tree, the spirits will obey thine command but briefly, as they recall battles past. Now it is thine, to do with as thou wishest.
Again, exhaust dialogue.
Mine intrusion tarnished, I doubt we shall again meet. But all the same, learn well the lands between. How long will it be, I wonder, before the tarnished tire of obeisance to the two fingers?
And with that, we now have the ability to summon ashes. So right now, I want to get to our next dungeon. It's the third dungeon in terms of level progression that is recommended. This one is a coastal cave. And now I'm trying to figure out how to get to the coast without encountering some really nasty enemies, like a giant that's actually wandering about. So I head towards back where I first spawned out of the world, and then I start making my way down. And head towards the beach. And I have to be careful because these cliffs might be too high, so I need to find a way down. Because if we take the regular route, we're going to encounter the giant. Okay, still too high. Yeah, still too high. Okay. So maybe I can go down that way. There's like a fallen building over there I can probably use to drop down. I don't see the giant, so he probably passed me. So I'm gonna go right down here. And safe drop. Now let's find the cave. The funny thing about this is that I actually don't know where the cave is, and I thought it's actually at the end of this beach. But here we go on the left side, we just passed it. However, passing that cave, we do find this merchant. And the smoldering butterflies that I picked up are actually useful for the fire pots that I can make with those cracked jars that I got. Seeing as how there's no cave here, I'm going to go back again. As I pointed out earlier, I did pass it. It's certainly not where the merchant is, so I'm confused. But I noticed that on the map, the cave was already marked, so I just right in there. You cannot take Torrent in these dungeons, as you can imagine, and there's actually a border on the ground that actually prevents them from crossing into these areas. Before anything else, I'm going to discover the Site of Grace and replenish all my flasks. I do realize, however, that this cave is really, really dark. And given that I don't have anything to light it up, I think I need to get something that'll help me traverse through this cave. Maybe this merchant has like a torch or something like that. Let's check out his wares. More smoldering butterflies.
I don't want any trouble.
No, he does not.
All done? Well, be on your way then.
What are the chances of Kale actually having a torch? Let's find out.
Wait. Well, you're back.
Ah, he does have it, but it costs 200 runes and we only have 2.
For now.
For these instances, I really don't want to use any sort of golden runes that I picked up. I can just kill somebody and grab the 200 runes that I need. So if you remember these guards, we're gonna massacre them. That's 64. And of course, there's this guy on the left side that we can murderize. That's another 64. And another. Now we just need one guard. But let's pick up the loot that we left over here. And then target this guy. It's dark, so they have a very narrow field of vision. That's 200. So we're going to go back to Calais and pick up the torch. If you've never played a FromSoft game before, it's going to be interesting how you'd react to how I use the torch.
What is it? Goodbye. Nice to do business.
So we're going to go back to the coastal cave. So the way that it works is that you have to equip it to a hand. And if you notice, my character is holding the torch on their left. And if I wanted to dual wield my right hand weapon, they're going to have to drop the torch. There is actually a way to free up the left hand, and unfortunately we're not going to cover that in this video. But just know that that exists. Sometimes when the ghosts of other players show up, I sometimes jump out of my seat because I think that they're enemies. But this is what I meant in the video when I said that you never feel alone in these games. You see vestiges of other characters, other players playing the game and seeing what they did. Ah, a gold summoning sign. Basically, summoning these cooperators is free. It doesn't cost anything. Just look for these gold summon signs in every other dungeon. Sometimes they're there, sometimes they're not. This is going to be somebody that's going to help you. It's computer controlled, and they have really cool abilities. I'm going to be equipping the Lone Wolf Ashes to summon for this fight. So I'll have a cooperator and a summon ash that I'm going to summon right now. So I'll have the wolves and Old Knight Istvan to help me out. And there's a very good reason why. Yes, I am fighting against 2 bosses, not 1. So I'm going to need all the help I can get. Oof. There's that blood loss status effect. Don't want that to fill up. Thanks, it's fun. I have to be careful because the other guy's there too. Are you guys having a tough time keeping track of what's going on? Imagine if I was just doing this by myself. That's one down. And that's that. As with most pieces of content in this game, this fight is soloable. I just wanted to show you that you can have a gold cooperator alongside a summon ash. Normally we'd be taking this exit, but in this case we're going to go past it because there's something else at the end of this cave. It's certainly not this, although that'll be very useful. Didn't do too well on that one, but that's okay. Aha, the other side of the water. There's the coastal cave entrance back there across the water. And we can mount up. I'm not killing these guys for no reason. The thin beast bones can be used for arrows that you can craft later. And lo and behold, a site of grace. And a fairly suspicious building. Not enough. Let's see what's in this building. Oh yeah, I did get a golden seed from that golden tree. So now I have 4 health flasks that I can use in addition to 1 FP flask. As you can see there. Now let's check out the building. A dragon. If you have an incantation build, this is a great place to get these. These all require dragon hearts, which you can only get by defeating dragons all around the lands between. So let's teleport out of here. And let's go back to Stormhill Shack. We're headed towards the War Master's hut, and they have a bunch of ashes of war that I can use to modify the special moves of my weapons. And it's just off the beaten path, along with a site of grace. Just wanted to make sure that those guys didn't follow me.
Not seen you before. Name's Bernal. Tarnished, just like you. Let me ask you something. Are you here in the lands between to take up the fight? Does your faith in the guidance of grace hold firm, despite the collapse of the Golden Order? Yes, you're a tarnished through and through. Takes me back. But that's a quality needed now more than ever. Any interest in bearing the torch of my battle arts? All I know is the sword. Picked up a fair few tricks in my time, too. Now's the time to pass them on. To a good and proper tarnished, like you.
So as he says, he has a lot of sword ashes of war, and unfortunately, we're going to be using a whip.
Well, there's no rush.
But either way, it's nice to have the Sight of Grace unlocked, in case we change our mind. From here, I'm assessing where the 4th dungeon is that we're going to be getting to, and admittedly, I don't have all of these dungeons memorized in terms of their location, so I'm kind of feeling out where they are. Uh-oh. I did not expect a deathbird here. These deathbirds only show up in the evening, and so I gotta run really far to try to lose them. I don't think I'm ready. And I'm certainly not ready for that land octopus. Yes, you heard that right. Here's a graveyard, but I want to show the relative location of this graveyard from Stormhill Shack so you can find it yourself, if you're curious. Graveyards are extremely important in Elden Ring as they give you free golden runes. Tons of them. Sometimes they're noted on the map. You can see them as little triangles that are right next to each other. And in this case, it's not marked at all. Again, apologies for the performance of the PC version. It really has gotten worse over time. As you can see, there are a ton of these. But be careful of these worms, because they do explode. And it's a bad time if you're caught in them. I should point out that there are sheep nearby, and they can aggro you if you taunt them. So be very careful. But as you can see, we've gotten a ton of golden runes in this one area. And now I'm just kind of trying to scout the rest of this graveyard to make sure that I've gotten everything. And it looks like we did. So I'm still trying to find where that one plateau is with the one single troll. And the reason why I want to try to find this troll is because what he has is very important. Or rather, the area that he's in. But I've changed my mind and I went back to Stormhill Shack and I've decided to just use all the golden runes that I got from that graveyard. This is one way that you can level your character past a certain point. It's actually very useful. So if you want to level your character a bit, just look for the nearest graveyards. And as you can see, I went from level 14 to level 17. People who have written guides for this game suggest that we need to be right around level 20 in order to survive the area where the whip is located. Being at level 17, that means we're not ready yet. So instead, we'll continue looking for that 4th dungeon by teleporting to this side of Grace. Gonna try to avoid these enemies because there is yet another side of Grace nearby. You can see it in the corner of your eye. It's right there, and we're headed towards it. It's time to go northeast. We are looking for the Murkwater Catacombs, and it is down a ravine of sorts. There's the ravine. A site of Grace? What's really surprising is that in the 2 playthroughs that I've done with this game, which are not complete, I've never actually found this one. So this was a genuine surprise. I think we're close by. Now, I'm trying to look for a cave here, like an inlet of sorts. But as you can see, I don't have any indication of where it is. So I'm just gonna like wander around. As far as those jellyfish go, if they're red, they're gonna attack. But since they're not, they're just going to meander about. I feel like I'm going the wrong way. So I'm thinking the only way to go is north. So we're gonna do that. Again, jellyfish are passive. There are slugs on the ground, slowly moving. And I think I can see it. Yes, there it is. As always, site of Grace. And we don't have enough experience, so let's go charge in. Oh, it's a 3-headed version of what we fought earlier. And there's 2 imps that are here. Oof. Too far. Ooh. Don't want to do blood loss. That's not good. Since I have my shield equipped, I actually didn't know that the FP move is parry. I'm not used to my FP move being parry. That's a trap. There's 2 ways to do this. Right now I'm doing the cowardly way by basically hiding behind this pillar. And eventually these guys are going to give up. And what we can do is do this. That kills one of them. Oof. That's a far shot. And they're dead. Oh, I did not see that guy. That's not good. And he's dead as well. Maybe I should start reading those notes like that. But I don't think that's enough of a warning, because you do see two people, but you don't know that there's actually something to the left. And so I kind of decided to leave a message by saying, be wary of the left. That's more helpful, because that tells players that there's actually 3 people there, not just 2. And if you run in, you might die. And also, look carefully is a bit too obtuse, I feel. So I think if I say be wary of trap, it would be better. That's a lot of words. But I also kind of decided to like leave it a bit closer. Here we go. Let's leave it here. Hopefully this will help somebody. And as you probably remember, since this is a catacombs, this lever will open a big door where the boss is. Let's make sure not to trigger the trap. And look at that. There it is. And another trap. Suspicious. Unfortunately, I fell into a trap myself. There's actually 4 people here. And there goes my runes. But now we know. So let's try it again. Whoops, I forgot about these guys. And there's actually 3 of them in this room. Oof. The imps are really good at getting behind you, so let's see if we can negotiate this properly. Oof, blood loss. Not good. Okay, that's 2 taken care of. I think I remember killing the 4th one, but let's get all the flasks back and approach this properly this time. I think there are really just 3 here, not 4. Oof, so fast. Critical. There's one up there. Jumping attack. And there we go. We don't need to go into the room with the lever, so we will trigger. I thought that would get both of them, but they're actually out of the range of the trap, so I'm gonna trigger them one at a time. Didn't work too well. Ha! That worked. How about you, buddy? Okay. So what does this note say? Up. Well, that's nice, but I can't see anything. There is a chance that it's actually up and behind, but unfortunately, can't really see it properly. There he goes. It's kind of a bad angle, so I'm just going to pretend he's not there and then attack. If you notice, since I pushed the imp onto the plate, it doesn't actually activate, so that's a good thing to note. And now, the boss. There are no golden summons here, as you noticed, so we're just going to take advantage of our wolf. Again, I don't really need to summon the wolves, also because it sometimes overcomplicates the aggro issue. Like, what is this enemy going to face? Like, what is this enemy going to pay attention to? Since it's divided amongst 4 different things on screen. But it seems like the wolves are actually doing a much better job at this than I thought. And he's bleeding. Oof. One of the wolves is down. Another wolf is down. But he's down too. GG wolves. And we get another ash. Doesn't look like there's any treasure chests here. So we're gonna go exit. We have 3,000 runes, so we can probably get to level 18 by now. So let's check. Going back to the site of grace. Yep. Let's add more health. Went from 499 to 522 vigor. That's good. So we still don't have enough levels to go to Castle Morn. We can go there if we wanted to. Nothing's really stopping us from going there. But I want to be safe. I want to make sure that I'm not going to get mauled by the enemies. So instead of going there, I'm going to go back to the Church of Ella where Kale is and find the 5th dungeon. The 5th dungeon is actually a different type of mini dungeon. There are 3 types of mini dungeons. There are caves, catacombs, and this new type that we're going to see here. Again, we're trying to basically get down to a level where we can land safely. Gave us damage, but we're still alive. That's fine. This 3rd mini dungeon type is a mine. Mines are very useful to gather smithing stones to upgrade your weapons. So let's see what this is all about. As you might surmise, there are miners in this mine. And they are our enemies. A bit beefier than the ones you've faced. Yes, pickaxe can be a weapon. We're not going to bother the miner guy, and we're going to bother this supervisor until I, of course, realize that I ran out of regular arrows. And as you can see, my sword is bouncing off of him. Except that time. Your turn, buddy. You're probably also noticing that after I do a backstab on these guys, the targeting reticle turns off. I don't really understand why that is, but it does happen. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. That was not smart. I got your number, buddy. I'm gonna do a charged attack, but it hit too early. I hit parry accidentally and die. Maybe I should just unequip the shield. That would be the smarter way to do. Again, I was expecting to have my katana dual wielded, like with both hands, and unfortunately that's just not the case. So let's run through this mine again, and hopefully we can do better. That was a charged attack. I was too greedy at the time. That's why I got hit. And it's your turn, buddy. Huh. Jumping attack actually breaks his posture. Look at that. I see. Maybe it'll work for you too. Charged attack? Okay. Alright. That worked pretty well. Revenge time. Now that I'm using both hands for this weapon. Oop, missed again. Oof. I really can't do a follow-up hit with these guys. They're just way too fast. Okay. Got our runes. Time to explore the rest of the mines. Charged attack. Oof, yeah. I really can't follow that up with another attack. Uh-oh. Okay. Whew. I'm actually really surprised at the rat encounter because I had trouble with that the first time I did this dungeon. Okay. Let's check out the other side. Another elevator. And we're going down. Huh. I wonder where that goes. Let's see. There's a dog in there. There's a miner there. I think the direct approach is best. There's a dog. The way that targeting works in this game is that if there is a certain amount of time that the dot is not visible on the camera, it automatically turns off. That's how it works. It's after a certain amount of time. So even if you do peek out, that might be best. And now I realize that I can make fire pots, so let's just make them. Why the hell not? Of course, I forget to equip them, but I'll leave this Alex to worry about that later. Seems like this is all there is to it, right? Not quite. You see, mines are all about verticality, and it's through this method that they get to hide secrets. Like this one that we saw earlier. Aha. Brand new area. I'll go after this guy. He's isolated enough. Oof. You're beefy. Whenever he does that to his lantern, that means he's about to spew fire. So I want to interrupt him as much as I can with that. Okay, one down. I guess there's this guy. Oop. Accidentally did not trigger critical on that. And this is when I learned that I can't really do any sort of follow-ups to my attacks. If I hit him once, I just need to back away. And that was a bit better. And this guy. Whoops. I did not notice that the guy on the left would actually aggro. So I have to space properly. I have to create some space. Give myself some sort of advantage. But we have to deal with the lantern dude. And again, we're applying the same strategy that I learned just now of hitting and running. Whoops. Bad distance. Got greedy there. One down. Roll forward. Whoops. A jumping attack missed. One hit. Critical. Nice. Let's take care of this guy. So what I'm doing here is as soon as my sword actually disconnects from the body, I actually target him again. Nope, I didn't pick that up. Grabbing more smithing stones and using this elevator. So this gate basically means there's a boss behind it. This is how mines actually show that you're about to fight a boss. It's not through like a green smoke-filled wall or anything. So instead of actually pursuing the fight right now, we're going to go back to the site of grace and refill all our flasks, because now we know the route. And we're going to do something really silly after replenishing all our flasks. Make sure you remember this route. You're going to need it. Whoops. Wait a minute. How did we get back down? What's actually really interesting is that they know this would happen, and so they put some ledges where you can safely drop down and not die. So just take those down and use this lever right here to call back the elevator. See? And we're actually almost back to the site of grace. Again, I have to apologize for the performance of the PC version. I actually had my PC hooked up to a monitor, and the monitor didn't display any of these hiccups, so I'm still trying to figure out how to negotiate that. Let's get more health. And this is what we're going to do. Instead of fighting all the enemies that we just spent fighting just now, since we've technically gotten all the runes from them, we're just going to run past them. That way we're not wasting time, and instead we have all the flasks that we need in order to fight the boss of this area. This is dangerous. I did this instead of teleporting to the entrance, because if you teleport to the entrance, the locations of these elevators will stay, which basically means that if I had not reset this elevator back up there, I would have to pull the lever, wait for the elevator to pop up, and I might be overwhelmed by enemies. And again, this gate opens up the boss arena. And it's a troll. It's like a giant. But we can summon our wolves. Let's see how well we do. Trolls and giants are the types of enemies that I fought a lot when I started the game. And if you see that red area there, that is a critical hit area. One hit. One hit's all it takes. And he's dead. I don't actually know what the Roar Medallion does, but I do notice that there are no treasure chests here. Let's check out what that does. We have neither of those, so let's just exit this dungeon. Naturally, we got some runes from that fight, so we're going to go check to see if we can level up. And turn around. Oh, have to use the lever to get the elevator up. Although, looking quickly at the number of runes that I have and the number of golden runes I have, I actually don't have enough to level up. So I'm just going to leave. And go back to Agheel Lake North. I've kind of decided that I'm just going to start heading towards the direction of where the whip is, which is a castle called Castle Morn. Wait a minute. What's that? Somebody's here. It's not. Yeah.
Stop pretending you can't see me.
I don't know where you are. I am trying to find an NPC, but there are only enemies.
Why won't anyone look me in the eye? I'm not that ugly, am I?
At this point, I figured it was something hidden in the area. I thought it was the sheep, and it's not the sheep. Until I read these. Try rolling.
What'd you go and do that for?
I've never found this guy in any of my playthroughs.
Oh, yes. I remember. Some clod turned me into a tree. You were just breaking the spell, weren't you? Thank you. The name's Bok. I was pushed out of the cave. Told not to come back. Not ever. Then I ended up as a tree. Lucky you came along, really. Oh, what a shame. When they threw me out of the cave, they took everything I owned. And so this is all I have to express my thanks. I hope you can forgive me.
As I said,
Or
exhaust all
if you
dialogue.
can afford to wait for a while, I could sneak back into the cave and bring back something of actual value. Then I'd be of some real use to you, I reckon. Right, but I'll need a moment. I'm frightened of them, so I have to gather myself. My knees start knocking, just thinking about that god-awful cave on the shore. Right. But I'm
Okay.
I'm
Repeating
frightened of
dialogue.
them.
So that means it's time to go. Huh. There's a dung beetle here. These guys usually drop something interesting and important. I also don't want to die because these guys are trying to take advantage of me being distracted. So we'll go past them, pick this thing up, and ride on. You're probably wondering why I know all of these, and it's because of repetition that I know where these locations are. But don't feel bad for not knowing where locations are. That's part of the magic of the game. You can just follow what I'm doing here, of course, but I'm also purposely skipping other content that you might want to check out, like these waypoint ruins here. Because we're headed to a graveyard. So the only thing I really do in graveyards is to pick up the golden runes, but we're not going to use these golden runes at all. We're just going to basically keep them in the background. You can use them if you'd like, but I already feel that by using the golden runes before, I've kind of in a way made the game a little bit too easy, because when I used those runes, I leveled up 3 times. But your Elden Ring experience is yours, and don't let me or any other person judge you for what you decide to do with your game. The world is your oyster, as they say. Now we're headed to another side of Grace, and we're going to cross over this and ignore all these people. And as you can see, it's glinting in the background. If you can't tell already, the sites of Grace all have these kind of shooting golden embers that are kind of meeting towards it to kind of point you to that direction. We're just doing this to replenish all of our flasks, and off we go. We are headed south to an area that's called the Weeping Peninsula. I choose to call it as Australia because it kind of looks like Australia. We're going to go past these guys, and we're not going to fight them. There's a good reason why. That. Of course, you can approach them from behind, but we don't really care about these guys for now. I only care about the whip. And so we're going to take the side of Grace. And we're going to talk to this lady right here, who suspiciously is surrounded by dead bodies and a broken wagon.
Hello? Is somebody there? Might I bend your ear for a moment, please? My name is Irina. I've escaped from Castle Morn to the south. The servants there have rebelled. I can't be sure what it is. My eyesight's been weak since birth, you see. But I swear I heard frightful howling from all over. My good father secreted me out the castle, but decided himself to stay. He says it's his duty. As commander, I fear for father's life. The servants are full of wrath, filled with hatred for every one of us. They've since come for every one of the companions I escaped with. They haven't spared a soul. I fear it's no different at Castle Morn. Please, I implore you, would you mind taking a letter to my father at the castle? My soul wishes that he escape, even if his honor should be the price. Please. I just want him to be safe.
Let's do it.
Dearly. Then please, take this. Deliver it to my father, who remains in the castle, if you please. Please. If you would
Okay,
stop.
it's repeating. So let's go. Incidentally, that's the castle where the whip is. So we're just going to go right there and of course, deliver Irina's letter. We're going to try to skip all of these encounters just because we really don't need to do any of them. But naturally, if you feel like you need to, feel free to do so. Another dung beetle. And another Ash of War. Not all of these dung beetles will drop Ashes of War, by the way. And another Site of Grace. Don't be fooled. These Sites of Graces are here because you are still in a very easy section of the game. Once you go into more difficult portions of the game, they're going to be more sparse, as you can imagine. We're also looking for a map of this area because this is a brand new area that's unmapped, and it just so happens that there's a map marker there in front of us. But there's also something looming in the background that we have to be careful for. That. The closer we get, the more the figure shows in the background. We need to get close. We're at a disadvantage. Critted. Weak point. Critical. That's another 1,000 runes. Fantastic. And we arrive at Castle Morn, where the whip is. All this for like a whip run. It's kind of crazy if I do say so myself. I'm doing this all for a whip, to live my Castlevania dreams. And look at that. Level 20. We made it. Let's see how we fare. There are a lot of unnecessary enemies in Castle Morn, and I hope we can skip some of them. I just want the whip. Dogs are easy enough. Huh, bunch of demi-humans there. What's actually very interesting about this is that the demi-humans were the servants of this castle, and they seem to have rebelled. At least that's what the story says. We're going to sneak past this guy because we really don't need to wake him up. And we're going to crit hit this guy. Sorry, dude. There are multiple ways to this area that we're getting to, but this is probably the most straightforward way to get there. Nice. It's so satisfying to kill like some of these enemies, just because they're really difficult sometimes. So something interesting about the flying enemies of From Software games. They're not actually flying. They are still confined to the ground that they're on, which basically means that if they fall, they die. And we get the runes, just like those two. That really surprised me, by the way. Both times that I was here, that's never happened. So the butterflies that I need for my fire pots hang around fire, and this is one of them. That's a lot of these guys. And I try to use my other arrow again, and it doesn't work because I don't have any ammo for that. But I am outnumbered. This is dangerous. I can die. This is really foolish. I need to backtrack. And I need to target the closest enemy. Oof. Whenever you're surrounded like this, make sure that you don't become overly aggressive, because that's a sure sign of death for you. Keep calm. You can do it. We're actually going off the beaten path here because we're about to meet Irina's dad.
There's a face I've not seen before. I'm Edgar, warden of this castle, as ordained by Lord Godric himself. But you can see how things have turned out. The menials have all rebelled. They gave me good service, or so I thought. But it seems it was all an act. Foul creatures, as it said, and true enough, they're foul inside and out. I'm sorry to disappoint you, but whatever you come here to do, I'm afraid Castle Morn won't hold much longer. Take this, by way of apology. I see. From Irina. Thank you. I'm in your debt, but I can't leave yet. Even if the castle should fall, as commander, I must remain to ensure the treasured Sword of Morn does not fall into the wrong hands. If you see Irina, do tell her that her father will come for her once he's fulfilled his duties.
Well, let's solve this particular problem for her father then.
Irina, do tell her that her father will come for her once he's fulfilled.
Repeating dialogue again, so let's go. And let's not forget the smoldering butterflies, and let's keep going. So here I realize that I haven't actually equipped the fire pots that I made, so I am going to equip them so that I can use them later. Whether or not I'll use them frequently is another matter entirely. But for now, let's backtrack so we can get back on track to reclaim this sword, this weapon that he's talking about. So a thing of note, if you try to explore this area yourself, dropping to the site of grace is one way. You can't go back to see Irina's father unless you actually reload in an earlier site of grace. So make sure you see Irina's father first before dropping to this site of grace. And now, let's try to speed run to where the whip is. Okay, it's not here. We're going to grab that. And I don't know why I aggroed this guy, but I figured some XP would be nice. And let's run past these guys and drop down to the left. Oof, that drop is nerve-wracking. This one too. Huh. Another dung beetle. And then jump over here. And another jump. And another one, but don't overshoot this one. Because we need to drop down these wooden planks. Let's grab this one. That's good. We gotta be careful. Let's not fall haphazardly. The whip is just right below us, but there's a lot of enemies there. Rats, specifically, so let's pick a fight, kill one of them at least, and try to lure them to a bottleneck here. And I missed. So much for that bottleneck. My health is low. Oof. That's when I realized that I'm mashing buttons. Need to recalibrate. This is not good. Oh look, I remembered to use the fire pot. That was useful. More smoldering butterflies. Let's grab the whip. Ooh, why don't we try the whip with that guy? So let's equip it. Keep in mind, this is the first time I've actually used the whip in Elden Ring. I have this weapon for both of my other playthroughs, but I've never actually equipped it. So I'm trying to get used to it. Alright, let's test it against this guy. See how long it is. So one thing that I did notice from that particular encounter is that it easily broke his poison posture. So that's good. The problem is, because this is a whip, you can't actually do criticals with it. You can't backstab anybody with it. You can't stab anybody with it. So let's test this with the boss of this area, shall we? Here's a shortcut. So for this particular encounter, I am going to use the wolves to distract the boss, but I'm also going to use the parry. I've never used a parry once in this game, but I sure want to try. At least once. So let's see how well I do. But I can't critical him. I have a whip. I am noticing, though, just now, at this point, that my whip is actually breaking his posture really easily, in addition to all the wolf attacks. So much so that I've lost so much stamina and endurance, and my character isn't even whipping anymore, so I have to be careful. Too far. Oof. I think we can do this. Did it. And we got the greatsword. Unfortunately, this is where we're going to have to end this video. I want to know what you guys think of this. Call it a walkthrough, a talk through, whatever you call it. And more importantly, we have a goal here, right? Like, we got the whip, which is really crazy. And I do plan on making this particular run through a whip-based playthrough. This is, of course, in addition to the other 2 playthroughs that I'm doing, so I don't know how often I'll be able to do this. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please leave a comment down below. And if you really do like this, like really, really like this, I have a Patreon at patreon.com/backlogbattle. Until next time, guys, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.